I'm back. It's been nearly a year since my last video, but I finally found a book that I want to discuss a bit. And that book is Truth of the Divine by Lindsay Ellis. The book clocks in at around 500 pages, and throughout that time my feelings vacillated wildly on how I wanted to tackle the video, ranging from, hey, this is kind of a slog, to, god damn, that was beautiful. I think ultimately my sentiments fall somewhere in the middle. Just to give a little background, this is the second book in the new Mena series from prominent YouTuber and video essayist Lindsay Ellis, following last year's Axiom's End. I've been a fan of Lindsay's content for a few years now, so when I heard she was releasing a book, I was pretty excited about what it would be. She's an excellent writer, as evidenced by her YouTube content alone, but I came away from Axiom's End more curious about what would happen next than satisfied by what I had just read. By her own admission, the first book was a little rough in the way that most first works of art are. The writing felt a little unsure of itself in terms of tone and pacing, with big ideas, but not enough polish to completely string it all together. By no means a bad book, but not one of my favorites from that year. The gist of the plot from Axiom's End is that there is a girl in her early 20s named Cora, floundering after dropping out of college, struggling with finding her place in the world, and trying to manage her complex family life. Cora's father, Nils Ortega, is a prominent whistleblower determined to force the government's hand into divulging the existence of alien life forms on Earth to the public. Cut to Cora's family being abducted by the government and Cora running for her life from a real in-the-flesh alien who broke into her family's home. As the story unfolds, Cora finds herself caught between the government, her family, and Ampersand, her alien companion whose life and civilization she's grown to understand and empathize with. The book is largely focused around the government employing Cora as a translator for Ampersand as they try to understand his species and whether their kind is a threat to human civilization. Fast forward a little over a year and we have Truth of the Divine, the sequel to Axiom's End, and by most measures a much better book than the first. Ellis's writing has noticeably improved, with her voice much more consistent and the depth of her storytelling leading to a much richer experience. Without spoiling anything from either book, I can say that the story picks up almost immediately following the events of the first novel, with the world at large clamoring for more information about the emergence of the alien race that has descended upon the planet, largely in the shadows of the public's view. In the midst of the drama is Cora, her bond with Ampersand only growing over time, and advocating for the fair treatment of his race in opposition to the powers that be on the other side of the political aisle. Tensions rise as Cora gets pulled into the political sphere and a potential threat from the alien superorganism lands on Earth seeking out Ampersand. Cora also befriends and develops a relationship with our second lead character, Kaveh, who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for The New Yorker, looking for a story about the aliens and the political upheaval surrounding their appearance. Through the rest of the book, the story explores ideas surrounding trauma, identity, relationships, citizenship, misinformation, and government control, among a number of other topics. Although Truth of the Divine is a marked improvement from Axiom's End, it's not without its flaws as well, the most glaring of which is the significant lull that takes place in the second half of the book before things start to pick up again near the end. Things start to get repetitive and it feels like the same emotional beats are being played out over and over again. Part of me recognizes that the author is really trying to drill the ideas about PTSD and how it can affect a relationship into the audience's head, and I think exploring that space for as long as she does is beneficial, but man does it drag on. I started to doubt whether I really wanted to recommend this book to anyone, but thankfully the last 100 pages or so really hit its stride and has me excited for the next installment. Where the book excels the most is in its exploration of the ambiguity of morality, the exploration of the good and the bad and the good. The debate around whether to extend full personhood to the aliens among us acts as a genius stage on which to examine our own species' worst tendencies and how some shred of those tendencies lives inside all of us. The centermost subject of this examination is Kaveh, Cora's partner for the majority of the book. Ellis treats Kaveh as the lead character for large swaths of the book, especially in the second half. And as we learn more about him, the harder it is to tell how we should feel about him and his relationship to Cora. He is pulled in opposite directions by his own self-interest and his desire to care for Cora, making compromises that don't sit well on his conscience or bode well for his future. The way he acts towards Cora is part scumbag and part concerned lover, with the author detailing his inner conflict between his instincts and what he knows is right. Cora takes the backseat for a large stretch of the story, taking on a different role than she occupied in Axiom's End. During the more plotting moments of the book, there are still brilliant moments of brutal insight into Cora's struggles with PTSD and how it informs her ability to function, as well as her relationship with Kaveh, which at times becomes downright uncomfortable to read about. What really kept me engaged with the story is how Ellis dances around the line between good and bad, never quite drawing the line but somehow straddling it anyway. Each character is flawed in their own way, some more glaringly evil than others, and Ellis uses these different voices to make the audience really wonder about what the right call is regarding the limits of human compassion and understanding. How can someone we love so much hurt us so badly? And why do we still love them afterwards anyway? How does one come to terms with another's mistakes? How can we ever really know another person completely? The easy answer is that we can't, and yet we still choose to have faith in the ones we love, and sometimes strangers too. I wouldn't recommend this book to just anyone, but if you have the patience to read through the first book and want to dive into a fairly lengthy character study, this might be for you. It's not your typical science fiction, but I think the lane that it occupies is unique, and I'm excited to see how Lindsay fleshes out the rest of the series. Part 3 body problem, part Iron Giant, and even a hint of A Star is Born as well. I hope part 3 of the Numena series comes sooner rather than later, but until then, I'll keep myself content watching her take our Disney overlords down a peg or two. Thanks, Lindsay.